I'm here with Karl from Guff Studios, who's at PAX. Can you tell me a little bit about Guff Studios?
Yeah, sure. So Guff Studios is a new Australian publisher. We basically have two veins that we do, where the first one being finding games designed in Australia, New Zealand, Southeast Asia, publishing those and bringing those to the world, with the second vein being finding games from the world and bringing them into the Southeast Asian market, so we can have access to things that we may not otherwise down in this part of the world.
Nice. Now, I managed to have a play of Floating Floors. Can you tell me a little bit about that game?
Yeah, sure. So Floating Floors is really a physics-based game where you're balancing across these floorboards, placing little wooden pieces that we call jitsu. You're moving your little ninja character around, and what we're trying to do is basically collect. It's really a race game. You're trying to collect these your Bants and Seals little tokens that are laid around the outside of the board. So balancing your way across the floorboard tiles. You can only stand on the tiles of your color being the challenge in the game. So black and white player only being able to stand on black or white tiles. So having to place your little jitsu pieces down to be able to cross tiles of the other colors. Really having to balance and think about where the pieces are underneath the tiles that you're on, to be able to effectively balance and make your way across those without having the floorboards tip, which would then end your turn and pass over to the next player.
Can you tell me a little bit about, so from a new studio, can you tell me a little bit about the board game scene in Australia?
Sure. So I think Australia really has quite a thriving board game scene. So I'm a designer myself, and I think I found trying to find companies to be able to take on games is a big challenge down here in Australia. Most of the companies are either in America or Europe. So really myself, Stella and Mark, who started Guff Studios, we'd seen that there was space that the amount of games that we have to pick from down here is fantastic. So to be able to sort of take the games that are available and help bring those to market for people that maybe don't have that business sense. Probably similar to myself for my own designs, trying to find publishers for those, to be able to then team up with our little group of three and really push these games through Kickstarter and then into the wider community is just something really valuable to help the whole community grow and bring more games out into the market.
Can you tell me about what you hope to get out of being at PAX?
Yeah, sure. So really we're just trying to raise awareness of us, Guff Studios, as a company. So we've existed for probably just on a year now. Floating Floors was on Kickstarter earlier this year. And then we also have our other two games, Steam Up and Endless Winter, which we have the license for Southeast Asia. So we're selling those throughout Australia as well. So we've got some stock here of Endless Winter that we're selling throughout the weekend, and just showing off Steam Up, which will be coming out in April later this year as well. So just I guess trying to raise awareness, let people know what we do, that we're a thing, and hopefully a force to be reckoned with in the scene in the coming years.
Thank you very much, Karl. I'm here with Lyndon, who is showcasing Pixel Star Frontier. Can you tell us a little bit about the game?
So Pixel Star Frontier is basically a space skirmish game of tiny little pixel starships flying around the board, shooting each other. The whole idea is to have like one of those sort of miniature skirmish games that you can fit in your pocket.
So what are you hoping to achieve at PAX this weekend?
The game is essentially, I call it version 0.98 or something. I have a few little tweaks to do just to work out which ships are a little bit overpowered and balance numbers and things. And also just to get people on the mailing list, to be honest, is a big deal.
What do you think makes this unique to other sort of space combat games?
Well, it stemmed from me playing X-Wing and adoring it. So it's a fantastic game. There's just so much stuff involved. I never actually got to play the thing. So I don't cart a whole bunch of miniatures around to the game store and things like that just in case I have a game. Whereas this, it all fits in essentially a magic deck box. So you can have it in your backpack or in your pocket if your pocket's slightly bigger than mine, and just have it with you at all times in case you have a little pickup game and still have that like a similar experience is the idea. Yeah.
So is that sort of fun gameplay, some dice chucking, but then it also has the fact that it's not going to take up 4 shelves and break your back to actually cut it around.
We'll break the bank basically. So the core set at the moment has 12 ships in it, and they're all on little cardboard cards that has all their stats on it, and then the ships pop out of those cards themselves. So it's going to be, I say easy, it's going to be cheap, to print a bunch of expansions and a whole bunch of new ships that people can pick up at a much cheaper price and have like really interesting, unique fleets. Basically, is the idea.
So is it you're controlling the entire fleet, like a few ships each, or
Yeah,
what?
so similar to a lot of, I guess, miniature games, you build a fleet out of a certain amount of points. So you have 30 points to spend on ships. And that usually constitutes between 3 and maybe 5 if you have lower cost ships. And then, yeah, that's the idea to fly around with. You can potentially just have 2 ships if you want to have the really strong fleets. Yeah.
What's the realities of trying to release this game in Australia?
Yep.
Do you have to go to Kickstarter?
Honestly, yes, probably, yeah. At the moment, this version of the game is produced through the Game Crafter, which is an American website. That does a lot of custom printing and the laser cuts that I needed. Does it all in America, which is awesome. It's really expensive. So they do crowd sales through there, which is a nice way to get things out there if you have the audience, but there's just no, I guess, money to be made there because my margin is minuscule essentially, and I'll have to charge a little bit more. So Kickstarter is probably the way to go. It's just a bit riskier.
I'm excited to see how the game develops.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate it.
We're here with James, who has his game Drift that he's showing off to people. Can you tell us a little bit about the game?
Yeah, for sure. So Drift is a tabletop racing game for 2 to 4 players that has its roots in racing video games like your Need for Speeds and things like that. It offers something a bit different, I think, in that where most games sort of have an abstracted idea of how a car moves around a track, this game is really about learning to drive your car effectively around the track. So it uses a unique set of tiles that you use to plot your movement around the track, and the tiles interlock with each other in such a way that the longer the tile you play, so the further you're moving, the less it's able to pivot in the previous tile. So just like a real car, the faster you're going, the less control you have over your steering. So it's about learning when to slow down, when to speed up, that sort of thing. Of course, the game's called Drift, so you can drift through turns. Drifting is almost never the fastest way to make it through a turn, but if you do it properly and in special marked zones on the track, you earn points that you can then spend to break certain rules of the game. So normally you only get to lay out 5 tiles. You can spend edge points to buy extra tiles to get you further ahead. Or normally you have to slowly speed up and slow down. You can purchase power shifts to let you accelerate harder or brake harder, that sort of thing.
It's been a bit of a process to get Drift to where it is today. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So it started out as an idea I had when I was working as a draftsman of all things. It was just this shape that sort of formed on my screen and something clicked in my head and I kind of saved it aside and started playing around with it. And my initial idea was that it would be sort of a set of tiles you would purchase to play with your own Hot Wheels cars for kids. And the idea kind of evolved from there. I'm very lucky in that I'm a graphic designer by trade, and I work for a science and safety company that has some very sophisticated equipment for cutting as well as access to materials for printing. So I've been able to very quickly, rapidly prototype things. I think I was sort of uniquely positioned to be able to do that. The game started development back in 2013, so it has been a long while. We were all set to go to Kickstarter with it in 2019, and then of course the pandemic put that on hold. So it's been picked up by Good Games Publishing. Things are finally starting to move with it again, and they're talking about a Kickstarter next year, hopefully early next year. So if anybody wants, they can head over to Good Games Publishing's newsletter sign-up page, and they'll be sending out a notification once the Kickstarter is ready to go live.
Very exciting. Now, so you've got a game that's sort of almost ready to be released, but not quite. What are you hoping to achieve this weekend at PAX?
If I'm being completely honest, I'm just really happy to see all of my friends that I haven't seen since the start of the pandemic. I've been a couple of times to the Collaboratory, which is, I don't know if you've talked about the Collaboratory, but people who are developing their prototypes and getting playtesting in. And the people I've met through game design are just some of the most amazing people you'd ever meet. So that's my primary reason for being here, but certainly the exposure for the game. Drift is a part of the Indie Showcase. It actually won a spot in the Indie Showcase last year, but of course, because of COVID, PAX couldn't go ahead. So they very generously contacted us and said, look, would you like to have a booth space this year? Of course, I jumped at the opportunity, and yeah, we're here playing the game. And yeah, I've been here non-stop, haven't left the table yet. So been here since 8:30 this morning, I think. And yeah, I don't know what time it is actually.
It's Saturday. Thank you very much, James, for taking us through Drift and the journey that it took to get here.
Thank you so much for your time.